Good morning, everybody. We want to welcome you to today's webinar, where we're going to focus in on the Lightspeed Sales Module. I know that many of you are quite familiar with sales and what it can do, but we want to look at some of the tips and tricks and tools and ways that you can automate processes within your sales department. So let's take a look at some of the just how-tos within the webinar. Again, I know many of you have joined us for our webinars on our Wednesdays, and we're excited to have you back. And just a reminder, anytime throughout the webinar, if you want to ask a question, just put it into the Q&A that's located on the bottom of your screen. We'll take some time at the end of the webinar to address your questions as we can. And if we don't get to everybody's question, we'll follow up with a document that has the answers to everybody's questions. So without any further ado, I want to hand it over to today's presenter, Brian Tierney.
Thank you, Diana, and welcome, folks. Again, thank you for the introduction, Diana. And those of you that have been on a Wednesday webinar before, you know me. I'm the Customer Development Manager here at Lightspeed. And for those that haven't been with us before, thanks for joining us on a Wednesday to talk about Lightspeed. Just to give you a little bit of introduction to me, I've been with the company for a little over 13 years in various capacities. I worked in a dealership prior to my time with Lightspeed as an organization, spent some time behind a parts service and sales counter at a dealership here in Salt Lake City, Utah, where I'm communicating to you from, which means basically I've been using Lightspeed for 30 years. And so thanks for joining us. Thanks for having me. We're going to talk a little bit about specifically tools that live in the sales module. These tools are really designed to enhance the experience of the user, to create efficiencies, save you time. And I've often heard the old adage, you can always make more money, you can always make more motorcycles, boats, and RVs, but you can't make more time. And so what we're going to talk about today are ways that you can leverage the tools and innovations within Lightspeed to give you back some time in your day. We're going to spend time talking about major unit to your website, API integration, what that looks like, and some things to consider in that regard. We're going to talk about some automation and communication that trends in towards the CRM application within the sales module. We'll also talk about the mobile application and its relation to CRM and the deal process. We'll talk about our new Lightspeed calendar and some alerts that relate to that experience, the automation, the mobile application, and really how do we manage workflow in the business. We'll talk about some integrations that we have on the deal desking screen with some F&I partners built right within the system that I think you're really going to like. And then we'll talk about some other layers in the deal desking process like e-signature, click to pay for capturing payments, and we'll also talk about some forms. And as Diana mentioned at the end of the presentation, we might have some time for questions, and we'll go through those together. So with that said, we're going to talk about, to begin with, major unit web integration. And hopefully you all have heard the word major unit before. For those of you new to Lightspeed, maybe new to these webinars, the term major unit refers to, in some cases, we call them whole goods. Those are your boats, your motorcycles, your RVs. And we're going to talk about what those look like inside of the Lightspeed platform. And we're also going to show you some ways that you can send that information from Lightspeed electronically to your website. Maybe to other places online like Facebook or Craigslist, for example. We'll talk about that. So let's go ahead and jump into the Lightspeed world. I'm going to pull Lightspeed up on the screen here, and we're going to go right to sales, and we're going to go to that funny word, major unit inventory. And it brings up a list of new, used, consigned vehicles. I'm seeing stock number, year, make, and model. But we're really going to hone in on the specifics about today's presentation, which is creating efficiencies and automations. And I'm going to look for a make in my major unit list. We're going to focus on an RV for today. So I select a Forest River RV from the major unit inventory list screen. And just to give us some context and set the stage, we're looking inside of a major unit record inside of the sales module where we see stock number, year, make, and model. And you may know this, speaking of efficiencies, ways to save time, we have a VIN decoder tool within major unit inventory. If you plug a VIN number into that field and hit that cloud button next to the VIN field, you can decode the VIN, and we're going to tell you what year, make, and model that vehicle is. And in many cases, color, price, and might even bring pictures and unit options into your major unit inventory record, all by clicking that button, saving you some time, creating some efficiencies, getting you accurate data. But let's talk a little bit about the relationship between the screen we're looking at and the mobile application and the way you can send this information to your website. So I'm going to slide over to the attachments tab for just a moment and indicate that not only do we have stock number, year, make, model, descriptions of the vehicle, but you'll notice we also have some pictures, and we've added those as attachments. Well, there's a couple ways you can do that. If you've got pictures on your desktop, some dealerships like to get a copy of an MSO or documentation related to freight or delivery of the vehicle, and they might add that as an attachment to the major unit record. If you've got those documents and photos on your computer, you can press attach file and import that information into the screen you're looking at now, or you can employ the Lightspeed mobile application to help you with that. And what I've done now is I've just pulled up an example of the Lightspeed mobile app. And for those of you that are familiar with it, great. We hope you're enjoying it. Those that aren't, you might know that it, well, just so you know, it works in Apple or Android environments, tablets, and cell phones. And it gives you access to a number of features in the program that we're going to focus specifically on the sales functions. But you can see there's several buttons that indicate customer information, parts, service. We're going to talk right now about major units. So, reason why I'm indicating this is a couple of reasons. One, I press that major units button, it brings up a list of all the vehicles that live inside of Lightspeed. I can search using some filter functions, just like we saw on the prior screen of the desktop. If I'm looking for a specific make, model, stock number, whatever it might be, I can use those search functions to find exactly what I'm looking for, review those vehicles, those boats, those motorcycles, those RVs right on my cell phone. Well, speaking of which, I know a lot of folks rely on reporting data to a printed copy of the report to review what vehicles are available to sell today. Well, why not use your cell phone to do that? Because you've got up-to-date information within your phone. You've already got it in your hand, in your pocket anyway, but I digress. So I select a unit from major unit inventory in the mobile application, which gives me other information about it. We're looking at the stock number, the year, make, model, the age of the vehicle, how long have we had it, pricing, and I press photos. And it takes me into a list of photos that may already exist inside the record, or I can launch my camera and start taking pictures of that RV, that boat, that motorcycle. And as I take those pictures, the pictures land as attachments on the Attachments tab. So that was a long way for me to get to where we were going, but using the mobile application to populate those images on your desktop screen within Lightspeed really takes us to that connection between Lightspeed and your website. So now that we've got all that information in your major unit inventory record, I go to the website tab and I press the link product to web button at the top of the screen. Now, all the attributes that I want to be posted to my web page or to Facebook or to Craigslist or RV Trader or other places online, as soon as I press that link product to web button, Lightspeed through a background API feed sends that information out to the web, and that's going to include pictures. So it ends up looking something like this. So pictures, stock number, year, make, model, price. And in many cases, the web partners that we work with, just to give you an example, one of which is DealerSpike, will send product descriptions back into Lightspeed so that I don't have to reinvent the wheel about the description of the vehicle. DealerSpike will provide that, and some other partners might do the same. But that allows you to populate your vehicle inventory out to the web, where now it's visible to all of your customers. Biggest benefit is time savings. I didn't have to go to my web page, to Facebook, to Craigslist, and manually input this information. I didn't have to manually upload the pictures. With one click of a button, my products are out visible to the world, saving me a whole bunch of time. Now, the backwards version of this is once we sell that RV, that motorcycle, whatever it is, Lightspeed sends a token to those online platforms to remove that product from the web, so you're no longer showing what's no longer available. Saving you, again, some time for managing inventory on your web page. Well, let's go into the deal desking screen. We'll talk about some efficiencies that live inside of the deal screen. We're going to focus on automation and communication. So I'm going to breeze through a little bit of the sales deal screen, some of the introductory screens, but we're going to focus on the communications tab within a deal screen that relates to Lightspeed Customer Relation Management, or CRM. So we're going to focus on that for just a moment. Let's go back into Lightspeed. I'm going to press sales. We're going to go to leads, quotes, and deals. And it brings up a screen where there's a series of colors. And I won't go into too much detail on the colors and descriptions, but I will focus on one of the columns called stage name, because this column is going to come up a little bit as we start talking about automation and communication. And as I'm looking at all of the leads, quotes, and deals on the screen, for those of you that haven't seen the stage name before, it's kind of a brief description of where you're at in your deal cycle. And we've also color-coded those so that they really grab your attention and tell the story about that particular deal. Now I'm going to select one of them from the list, and we're going to go and talk about Jeff Emmig's Forest River that he's about to purchase. And we'll talk about how maybe that lead dropped into Lightspeed, and then we'll focus specifically on the automation and communication element of the deal. So the first thing I'll point out, customer information's in the upper left. the source, where did that lead come from? So if I'm sharing my inventory out to the web, and maybe it's on my 50 Below website or my Dealer Spike website, or maybe the customer's gone to Forest River's website. And on those web pages, there's a form where the customer can put their information in and basically say, tell me more. That tell me more drops into the screen, and the source tells us where that lead came from. Now, focusing specifically on the Communications tab, the automation and communication, what you'll notice at the top of the automation and communication, or the communication screen rather, is a function called follow-up chains, and this is directly related to customer relation management within Lightspeed. Now, I've selected the drop-down menu next to follow-up chains, which really I think of this as a workflow management tool. Now, if we look at an example of what that workflow management looks like for a description of online lead CRM automated, we can see the detail portion that pops up next to the dropdown indicates all of the different touch points that occur throughout that deal cycle using that follow-up chain. So for example, the first touch point is 30 minutes after that lead hits Lightspeed. A thank you text message goes out to the customer, thanking them for their inquiry, letting them know that Diana will be calling them soon and she's their salesperson, letting them know the hours of business. And as the clock continues to tick, other appointments like phone calls, follow-ups, deliveries, appointments to other people in the business like your sales manager, desking manager, service writer, maybe even the technician that's going to be updating and preparing that vehicle for delivery. All of those tasks get assigned to those individual users, and in many cases, there's some automation that occurs throughout that cycle based on time frame. So maybe every 24 hours, every 3 days, every week, we send out a text message or an email to the customer to update them on the deal process. All the while, when those automations are going out of the system, over on the right side of the screen, the green boxes are an example of the email or text message that went out to the customer. And if the customer responds, because chances are they will, the responses will also come back to this screen, and you'll show in the blue box the response back from the customer. Nice thing about that is that communication, that conversation, the audit trail of everything we've communicated and the customers responded to is captured in the deal screen for anybody to review. Now, this is going to take us a little bit into some tools that we can use to manage all of this. If we've got one deal to work with, that's no problem. One deal is easy to handle. But we like to think that you've got more than one deal, 10, 20, 30 deals at a time, and they're all in various stages of the deal cycle. And how do we manage all of those things? Well, let's talk about some tools that we use to manage those different features and functions within the deal cycle. We're going to talk a little bit about the mobile application, and that's one of the elements that allows us to manage the chaos in the sales deal process. And we're going to look at some ways that you can use your cell phone to track communication back and forth from the customer and really manage appointments, deliveries, and workflow using the mobile application in Lightspeed. So let's go back to Lightspeed. We're going to leave Mr. Jeff Emmig's deal open for just a moment, but I'm going to pull up the mobile application, and hopefully this shows up well across the front of the deal screen. But the nice thing about the mobile application is I don't have to be married to my desk. I don't have to be married to my keyboard to manage communication between my customers. At the top of the mobile application is a button called Follow-ups, and if I press that button, I can see a small calendar view of what my appointment schedule, what my workflow looks like for the day. If I've got a phone call that was scheduled to me by those follow-up chains, if I've got a pickup or a delivery that was scheduled, maybe a phone call or an email or any kind of communication, any kind of workflow management, I'm going to see that from my mobile app. And if I place a phone call, if I have an appointment, if I have any kind of interaction with the customer, I can apply notes to that interaction, apply notes to that particular function. And that's going to apply not only to the mobile application and update that as a completed follow-up, but it's also going to show up in the deal screen so that management and other people in the business can see what I've done, what we've communicated, what the customers agreed on from the deal cycle. Now, a couple of other things, I can also access email and text functions from the mobile application. So back when we were looking at the communications tab, we saw those emails outbound, we saw the text messages outbound, and we saw the responses back from the customer. That same mirror image of communication occurs on the mobile application. So again, I don't have to sit at my desk. I don't have to be married to my keyboard to manage back and forth communication. And as I use the mobile application to text or email, not only am I able to communicate and update my customer and receive responses from them, but that conversation is also copied back into the deal screen where other folks in the business can review it. And the other beautiful thing, and I heard this recently from a client that I was working with, is all of that data gets captured and attached to the deal and the customer record, and it becomes a historical element of your data within the Lightspeed program. And I hadn't thought about that before, but I thought it was interesting to point out. And I think what that person was saying is that if the salesperson is using their own personal cell phone number or their own personal email address to communicate with customers, and we hope they are, we hope that's great because it's going to bring customers in to make a purchase from us. That's awesome. That's what we want. But we lose that communication if it's not attached to Lightspeed. Those text messages and emails and conversations that occurred on a salesperson's personal device is attached to their device, and when they leave, which they may, they take it with them. And so that data, that conversation, that customer record goes with that employee, and it's lost forever. So having it captured inside the mobile application and in the desktop of Lightspeed really contributes to the overall data within the program, which I think is a pretty powerful feature. So again, let's talk a little bit about some of the other elements, some of the other tools that we can use to automate communication to really manage workflow within the sales deal module. And we're going to introduce a couple of new subjects, one of which is our Lightspeed Calendar, which is a workflow management tool that closely relates to what we saw in the mobile application a moment ago. And we're also going to look at a function called System Alerts, which is a way that we can automate updates to the user, regardless of department, that let the user who's using Lightspeed know when a particular instance has occurred. Let's take a look at how both of those interact together to make sure that your customers are properly cared for and that the people in your business are doing what they're supposed to do. So we're going to go ahead and pull Lightspeed back up. I'm going to close the deal screens for just a moment, and we're going to start by going to System and System Alerts. And we're going to talk a little bit about what's contained within the System Alerts screen. Now, the first thing you'll notice is there's some kind of I guess, boldened phrases at the top of each of these color-coded stripes. And these are indications of instances in the program that you can assign yourself to be alerted about. Whether you're an accounting person, a salesperson, service person, or a parts person in the business, there are various instances that Lightspeed will notify you about using email, text, or alerts in the mobile application or desktop when those instances occurred. But specifically, we're focusing on managing efficiencies in the sales module. We're going to talk about some CRM-related functions here. So for example, when a new unit gets added to major unit inventory that matches something your customer is looking for, or maybe a unit has shown up as a trade or it showed up in the service department somewhere, but a vehicle has been added to Lightspeed that your customer wants, you can get alerted by an email, by text message, or a notification in Lightspeed that that instance has occurred so that you can follow up with that customer. I don't have to necessarily be at my keyboard, and I don't have to be refreshing screens to see it. I can get a message that lets me know it happened. If I've got an appointment, a delivery, a pickup, a phone call to make in the next 30 minutes, I can get an alert that tells me. My mobile app, text, email, a pop-up in Lightspeed will tell me so I don't miss those appointments and miss an opportunity. Maybe I've got a customer that's arrived somewhere in the business, whether it's parts, department, service, or somewhere in the business. My customer's name is shown up on a repair order, a parts invoice somewhere in the business, and I want to go greet that customer and have a conversation with them. I'd like to sell them a motorcycle. I'd like to sell them an RV. So we want to be notified about those things. When a lead comes in from your web page, from Facebook, from Craigslist, when that lead drops into Lightspeed, I want to be notified. Again, so I'm not always staring at my computer screen, so I want to be alerted when those leads come in so I can follow up appropriately. And the last little feature I'll kind of speak to here is if my name is added to a sales deal. Now, it's not uncommon for leads to come into a BDC group or to a manager, and that manager then assigns the deal to the appropriate salesperson. When that occurs, I get a notification via text or email or a little pop-up in Lightspeed that my name was added to a lead and I need to follow up with that customer. So it allows you to kind of manage the chaos in the sales department using those alerts. Makes it pretty easy. Saves you a bunch of time. Now, the other element that we're going to talk about is the Lightspeed Calendar, and I'm just going to launch it from kind of a sales view. Some of you may have seen the service experience related to the calendar. We're not really going to focus on the service experience, but there is going to be a little bit of a service element in my example here. I'm selecting a particular day on the calendar. You'll notice on the left side of the screen, we'll pretend like we're looking at current calendar month and future calendar month. And if I hover my mouse over today, these color-coded bars on the calendar give me a little bit of an indication of what activity, what appointments, what workflows assigned to that day. Appointments, phone calls, deliveries, pickups, what's really kind of attached at a high level to today. Over to the right, I can see the individuals in the business that are sharing their calendar with me along with my own. Now I can see mine. There's Brian. And Riley's one of my partners that I work with in the sales department or in the business. And he's sharing his calendar with me so that we can kind of see each other's calendar and really kind of work as a team. Now, if you're a manager, if you're an owner, and you'd like your staff to share their calendars with you, you might have more than 2 columns, maybe 10, maybe 20, maybe 30 columns with a cursor at the bottom so you can slide your cursor across the bottom and see all the different individuals. One key thing I'll mention is that folks have to share their calendar with you in order to see it, which if you don't want to share your calendar as a manager and owner, I can understand why you wouldn't want to with some of the other folks in the business. You don't have to. So it gives you a little bit of privacy. Now I digress. We're looking at Brian, we're looking at Riley, and we're looking at today's date. And I can see that Brian has a pickup assigned to him. He's doing some work in the service department, and he's also got a phone call assigned to him. So we've got some tasks that are assigned using follow-ups. Those follow-up chains we saw, automation and communication. If there's an appointment that gets assigned to me, that appointment shows up on the calendar. Same with Riley. Those appointments start showing up on the calendar so that they can manage their day-to-day workflow. And this is really visible to them also on the mobile application, as we saw just a moment ago. So it allows you to really manage the chaos in the sales department. Now, let's talk a little bit about, now that we've talked about how do we manage the chaos, how do we manage appointments, how do we manage customer interactions, let's talk about some other functions that live in the sales deal screen that will really kind of create an efficiency for you, expedite the process of finalizing the deal, get your customers approved in a timely manner, offer some ways to speak to third-party companies like DealerTrack, App1, and even Octane, maybe even get a credit report or a red flag report within the program. Let's take a look at what some of those look like together. We're going to go back into Lightspeed. I'm going to go to Sales, and we're going to go back into Mr. Emmig's deal leads, quotes, and deal screen. I'm going to select Mr. Jeff Emmig's Forest River deal that we were looking at just a moment ago and point out at where some of those features and functions live. Now, one of the things that I just want to first point out is once we get into the deal screen, on the Finance tab, if I click the Finance tab, it opens up an option for us to access Octane right within the program. And even though we're opening up the Finance tab and it's happening inside of Lightspeed, what's really happening is we're opening up a browser window within Lightspeed to access Octane. And if you've got a login for Octane, you can then log into your Octane database, and you can send customer information, vehicle information directly to Octane, where you can get practically an instant approval. And then you can kind of farm the deal information out to Octane, get the customer taken care of, get the deal settled, get funded immediately, and process your sales deal. And it's all integrated seamlessly into the deal process. So it makes that easy. Some other functions that live within the deal screen are access to the 700 credit dashboard. You want to run a credit report with your customer. If you want to check buyer worthiness with your customer, using 700 credit is going to allow you to check that identity alerts. You're going to be able to check red flag alerts. You're going to be able to check out who your customer is and really are they a buyer. So it's going to give you that information directly from the deal screen. Now, in addition to that, if I run a credit inquiry, just to run a credit report, again, for my buyer, my co-buyer, potentially as a combination, I can also go and I can send that information to any of my credit companies like App1, Cuddle, DealerTrack, or Route 1 right from the deal screen. Now, this is an outward push only, so it's going to send customer information and vehicle information, basically the deal information, to those providers so that you can integrate them with your deal process and really manage and expedite the sale for your customers. Manage making sure that you get funded properly as well. So in addition to that, a couple of other layers that live inside the deal screen are the ability to send a message to a customer via text or email, just an update on the process. So this is kind of going above and beyond the automation and communication. I'm going to send a manual text, a manual email. And if I want to collect a deposit from the customer, maybe I need to take a quick payment from the customer to get the deal process moving, or take maybe a payment to finalize the deal potentially. At the bottom of the template that comes up, whether it's email or text, I can press click to pay, and a safe, secure link is added to my outbound message to the customer, where when the customer receives that text or that email, they're going to be able to click that link, enter credit card information, make a payment, reduce the balance on the deal, and really get the ball rolling for the deal process. Makes it easy for you as a Lightspeed user, saves the customer some time, and you can interact even if the customer is not there in the business. Now, one other element that's closely related to that is forms. We're going to take a look at the buyer's order form, just as an example. And up in the upper right corner of the screen is also another forms button where all of your bank contracts, your trade appraisal forms, your registration forms, all of the state and local forms are going to be housed there. And this is just an example of one of the standard issue forms that comes with the program. Now, this particular one we've designed with our business logo, custom colors, picture of the RV Mr. Emig is looking at purchasing, breakdown on all of the different accessories that have been applied to it, like lights, audio equipment, etc. Breakdown on pricing, maybe even some finance options, trade information, signature lines, and disclaimer statements. Now, a couple of things about forms. Most of the forms these days, we're using laser printers to print. We've got a few customers that still use impact printers. They're still around, despite maybe their love or hate for those, but they're still around. But most of our forms we publish to laser printers. So I could simply press the print button, print this document to my laser printer. I can email a copy to a customer, or better yet, press e-signature. And if I need to get interaction from a customer, whether it's a signature, whether it's them just notifying me that they've reviewed it by entering their initials, or maybe we've got some check boxes for features and functions that they want to select, they say, from a menu. We can add those functions to a form, generate the document, and send it out as a PDF to the customer via text or email for their review. You can also do these things from the mobile application. So let's take a little bit of a look at what that looks like from a mobile element or a mobile experience, and speak about what the customer's experience looks like when they receive one of those e-signature documents from you. So I'm pulling up the mobile application. I'm going to go into the deal screen. And when I do that, it brings up all the deals that are open in Lightspeed. It's the same list that we saw on the desktop a moment ago, even down to the color coding. I can even create a new lead from the sales floor, from the parking lot, from away from the business if I need to with the mobile application. Again, not being married to my keyboard, opening up some flexibility and time. Select a deal. I can even if I'm creating a brand new deal, this is one thing that I think is also a time saver, particularly if you're challenged with spelling. If you're creating a brand new lead, you can grab an ID from a customer, maybe their driver's license or ID, scan the barcode on the back, and it's going to pull their name and information into the deal that you're building on your phone, or the lead that you're building on your phone, which I think is pretty cool. I can see all the different attributes of the deal, like which vehicle's being purchased. Are there any documents that have been signed previously? Those are going to be visible to me, in addition to attachments like photos, MSOs. Anything that's attached to the deal is going to be visible to me here, as well as managing follow-ups and appointments. Now, from the e-signature document screen or the forms document screen inside of the mobile app, I can press new, select a form from the list, send it to my customer from the mobile application, where I'm requiring a signature in this particular case. So my customer gets a text message or an email with a download, where they can download that document into their phone, review it, press the sign button on the bottom of the document, sign with their finger, and then they can download a copy right to their own mobile device. So I can interact from the mobile app, from the desktop, and I don't necessarily have to have the customer there in front of me to review documents or get a signature. We can manage it electronically, again, opening up some more time in your day. And once they've completed that process, that electronically signed document that we've just captured using mobile technology is now stored on the e-signature tab within Lightspeed. And in many cases, I can desk an entire deal top to bottom from the mobile application if e-signature is allowed by my lien holders, etc. And really, the customer never has to sign physically any of the documentation. Now, if I want to reprint and send those forms to the customer or provide them, I absolutely could. But the electronic signature just really expedites the process for you. So we talked a little bit about e-signature and forms. Now, forms themselves, we didn't go into too much detail about forms, but if you have questions about e-signature, setting up some of the features and functions related to customers interacting with your forms, we have a forms team standing by that can help answer questions for you and help create those e-signature forms within your deal desking screen, and then connect that, of course, to your mobile experience, again, to save you some time, open up some efficiencies in your sales department, and really expedite the process for your customers. So with all that said, we spoke about different ways that we can save you some time in the sales department. We talked about inventory to web integration, sharing your products out to the web and other places online, and how those get pulled down when the vehicles sell. We talked about some automation and communication using CRM and what that looks like for workflow management. We spoke about the mobile app, probably at length, quite a bit on the mobile application today, and we talked about some different F&I integrations within the deal screen. And I do encourage you to take a look at your forms and see if there's any way we can help enhance your forms experience, for not only for you as a Lightspeed user, but also for your customers. And we certainly appreciate your time and attention today. And Diane, are we getting any questions that I might be able to address?
We sure are. So thanks, Brian. Excellent information on the sales module. So many good tips and pointers, and a lot of ways that we can certainly see to help improve efficiencies. There's one or two questions that have come in, and encourage you, if you still have some other questions, go ahead and type those in now as we kind of go through the first ones. Couple of people, this is probably not really so much a question as maybe they just need to have some follow-up with tech support, but when they go into the major unit inventory link, they're not seeing a web option at all. I don't know if there's any kind of tips for you, because we've had that from a couple of people on the call.
Okay. It could be related to permission or licensing. So if you're not seeing that option, check with your business admin to make sure that you have permission to see those things. Your security profile either allows or prevents you from seeing a lot of different features and functions in the program, and that's one of them. So make sure that your permissions allow you to see it. And even if your permissions are allowing it, it could be related to licensing. So if licensing becomes an issue, reach out to your inside salesperson at Lightspeed and they'll help you out with licensing.
Yep, great. That's perfect. Couple other questions too, focused on the mobile app that people are just wondering. People are excited, of course, about the ability to take pictures and take videos, and they're wondering if there's any tips or pointers. Should you hold the phone horizontally or vertically? And is there any recommendations we have for like the aspect ratio?
You know, that's a great question. I think in terms of the way the mobile app functions, whether you're holding it vertically or horizontal, it really doesn't make any difference in terms of it doesn't have the ability to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Rotate the picture. So I think it doesn't really matter how you shoot the picture, whatever works best for you and your business and your mobile app. Outside of that, I guess I would probably refer to to the support department if you have specific questions about the mobile application or need help with it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I know even in Lightspeed within our actual knowledge base, there's some tips and pointers there for the photos and the sizing. So when you're in your Lightspeed, if you just go to your help area and you look up just Lightspeed mobile app, you're going to find some good tips and pointers there as well. Couple other questions too. Wondering if, and maybe this is one you can, Brian, kind of show people again. People are so excited to see the F&I credit pull and how you send it to a lender, but maybe you can just pull that up again and just show them how they access that.
Yeah,
There's been
absolutely.
a couple of questions on that one as well. So lots of information to digest.
Absolutely. So we're back on the deal screen. And if I'm just accessing 700 credit, if I'm doing a credit pull, if I'm doing a credit report, I can access 700 credit. Now, one thing that I should mention is 700 credit is another licensed feature. So if you're not seeing that button, if you don't have access to it, it could be permissions, but it could also be licensing. So maybe check with your admin, your business manager, owner, make sure you have permission to see it. And if you do, and it's still not working, check with your Lightspeed rep on that. So if you press that button, it'll take you to 700 credit dashboard where you can check compliance, et cetera, related to credit reports. The other function is under credit inquiry. If I'm just going to do a credit pull, now 700 credit will do soft credit pulls as well, just to really check buyer worthiness. But if it starts to get serious and we're doing a legit credit application, you can then send that credit information to companies like App1, Cuddle, DealerTrack directly from Lightspeed to really, again, just emphasize efficiency and speed and provide a seamless experience for your customers.
Yeah, that's perfect. I said there's a lot of different screens. And I think, if you don't have 700 credit, which is the primary one that we use for the credit pulls, like Brian said, those buttons would not be enabled on your screens. But that's something, again, that, we can certainly provide as an add-on module and an add-on solution. So make sure you reach back out to our sales reps if that's something you're looking for. A couple other mobile questions too. People are wondering, again, how you can add like a new customer on the mobile app. Is it something you can do, or can you only work with current leads?
No, great question. In terms of adding new customers through the mobile application, whether it's using that barcode scan that you saw a moment ago, which I think is really cool, or you're using your thumbs to text that information, a couple things that the mobile app will do is it will verify that that customer either does or doesn't already exist. So the assumption is you're putting a new customer in every time by the mobile app. And so when I start plugging in the information, Lightspeed will do a check to see if Jeff Emig already exists in the database. And if he does, it'll pull that record and apply it to your deal. If he doesn't, well, you've just simply added a new customer to your library, and now you've got another name on the list.
Yeah, yep, that's really good too. This is questions to Brian. We had even talked about, people had some questions about click to pay, like how that actually works within the system as well from the AP side. So I know it was something maybe you touched on very briefly, but maybe one we can come back to as well.
Sure. Well, click to pay is a function of our integrated credit card processing tool a company by the name of WorldPay. If you're using WorldPay as your merchant service provider, your credit card provider, by default, you'll have access to Click to Pay. If you're not using WorldPay, you won't have access to that. So that's one thing to be aware of. You do need to use our credit card service to be able to access Click to Pay, and that's going to work not only on the sales deal screen for capturing deposits, it also works in service, and it also works in accounts receivable. If you're just collecting from retail customers that have balances, you can use it there as well.
That's a great question too. I know we're kind of running over time here too, but maybe we can look at one more. Couple of questions. A lot of them just about, kind of how they get to really get 700 credit and Click to Pay and all those as well. And one thing too, I'll just recommend for everybody is even out on the Lightspeed website, which is just lightspeeddms.com. Underneath the Solutions tab, you can easily go to the area that talks about highlighted features and kind of like credit card processing, the credit report, texting, e-signature. A lot of that information, you'll find more details there. And it's also a way you can kind of reach out and learn more about it, find out about the pricing, and get in contact with Lightspeed as well. Okay, I'm trying to see if there's anything else too. People are just wondering if you can show what the CRM desktop looks like, from a sales side too. I don't know if you have like everything set up, Brian, so you can. Well, now you're on your website. We're going to let you just go there. Underneath the Solutions tab, Brian, if you want to navigate to that.
Sure.
Right there on the very right-hand side of the screen is what I was referring to. Like you can see a lot more detailed information on WorldPay, 700 credits, some of the different ways that we have additional functionality within the modules. So great resource if you want to read more about it and understand what those tools can do if you don't currently have those in your system.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
and then they were just looking at the CRM desktop. I mean, I think that people are just wondering how that looks on a desktop experience.
Yeah, of course. So CRM on the desktop. Now CRM is kind of one of those tools that lives in the system, and it has a number of functions. And really the functions apply to the particular individual that's using it, say a salesperson versus a desking manager versus an owner. So there's some different applications, but specifically if we talk about the desktop, I'm going to go to System and I'm going to select Desktop. And by doing that, hopefully some of you are familiar with this. If you haven't seen this before, again, just to show you the navigation under System, Desktop, when I come into this screen, I'll have a Designer button. If you've not set up your desktop yet, you'll press the Designer button, pick and choose the color-coded widgets that you want to track throughout your day. And each of these color-coded widgets represent activity that's happening within the system. Could be CRM related, could be service, could be parts, could be accounts payable related. Really is indicative of what role you play in the business. Pick and choose the widgets, click Save, and it'll add those desktop widgets to your, I think of this as my Lightspeed dashboard. A little bit of a scaled down view of Lightspeed calendar. So what appointments do I have as an individual user or all users in a specific department? I can include phone calls or just look at things like deliveries, pickups, etc. What are my follow-ups for today? Which ones have I missed? What are my future follow-ups? I can also look at where are my leads coming from? Like what's my #1 lead driver? Of those leads, how many turn into sold units? And there's other aspects of the desktop that are visible here. And I do encourage you to take a look at the desktop and do some experimenting and find out what's your best fit there.
No, that's excellent. And I know we are really pushing time, but I love that we're still getting questions. So a couple of things too. People have asked about just if this is recorded and how they can see this webinar and other webinars. I don't know, Brian, if you still have the Lightspeed website up and available, we can kind of look at that. If you are on the Lightspeed website, and one of the options is the resource hub, and if you go to the resource library, which Brian's navigating to now so you can see, click on that, and then underneath the filter category, what you should look at there is the on-demand webinars. We report, and go ahead and click on that, Brian. Once we've had a webinar like completed, like today's, we post them out on our public website. So that's one way you can easily access previous webinars, and you'll see the one that we're doing now out there tomorrow. So it's a great way for you to go in and replay those webinars, share them with other people within the dealership who maybe weren't able to attend. So just something you can do as well. And I think the last question we'll answer is just about the mobile app. And we get this one every time, Brian. People are wondering what it costs for the mobile app.
I love that question. The best price in the world, it's 100% free. So not only is the mobile application free, but it does not require a user license. So using the mobile application is also free. In fact, there's a number of ways that salespeople can also use a leads-only user license. We didn't speak about that today, but if you're interested in leads-only licensing, or if you're interested in the mobile application and you need help with it, certainly reach out to tech support or to your inside Lightspeed rep, and they'll be able to help you out with it.
Yep, perfect. And I maybe I lied because there's one more question I think we can just show to people are wondering where they go in Lightspeed to set up like security for different people, like where that's at within the system.
Okay. Yeah, and
Yeah,
again,
it's
this
so
is
nice to see them.
sure. Yeah, of course. So this is a very protected feature and function. So chances are only a couple people in your business would have access to this. So don't be alarmed if you click system and you're not seeing security. Chances are just your owner or your high-level management group are going to have that. But if you go into security, that's going to bring open a list of all of the staff members in your business. And within each record, I'll just pull open my own here. And within a user record is where all of the individual permissions for that user lives based on parts, service, sales, etc. You can pick and choose the different information fields. Which things do you want that person to have access to? Which things do you not want to have that person have access to? Individual stores, if you've got more than one store. Different user profiles. Is this person a cashier? Are they a salesperson? There's your leads limited license. So a little bit of a hint about something interesting there for managers. And also, if you want to really streamline the process, you can use templates. So maybe your person that you're focusing on is a salesperson. Highlight salesperson as a template, click apply template, and all the permissions for the average salesperson get applied to that person. So it's a quick and easy way to apply permissions if necessary.
Yeah, that's excellent. I know there's a lot of these setup things within the system. And like Brian said, you may not have access to all of them, but we've tried to simplify a lot of those processes with the template and standard orders. I mean, just ways that you don't have to reinvent the wheel each and every time. So it helps a lot. Well, I appreciate everybody sticking in here even longer to ask more questions. Excellent engagement today. We appreciate that. Thanks everybody for attending. Thanks, Brian, for an awesome demo on the Lightspeed Sales Module. And we hope to see all of you on some of our future webinars.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
everybody.
Diana.
Have a great day.
Thanks, folks. Take care.